Welcome to the Voice of MPE, the official podcast of Merchant Payments Ecosystem, Europe's largest merchant payments conference. Today, we are at the 16th Annual MPE Conference, MPE 2023. This podcast brings you interviews with payment industry leaders and professionals from the entire payment world. For more information, head over to www.merchantpaymentsecosystem.com. Today, we discuss how evolving consumer behaviour is reshaping the payment ecosystem. Geoff Barraclough from Business of Payments, the moderator of this session, spoke with Davide Messina from Mastercard, Paul Pike from Intelligent Venue Solutions, Terrie Smith from DIGISEQ, and Sumit Arora from Ant Group. Learn more about how payment companies should react and what to adopt.
My name is Sumit. I'm representing Ant Group. Ant Group is basically a financial services arm, very closely working with Alibaba. We own brands like World First, which is an EMI licensed company across globe, where we facilitate accounts, IBAN accounts for merchants globally. In several different currencies, over 14 of them in which they can hold money and pay out in 37 currencies globally. We also own a brand which you guys would know, Alipay. That's also a brand of Ant Group. And I'm the managing director for the company in Europe.
I was going to say, maybe Sumit, say a few words about your life before you were at Ant. You had a long career in merchant acquiring, didn't you?
Yes. So I have had, I'm very lucky to have spent all my life, working life within the payments industry. So I've worked with companies like Ingenico Worldline, where I was a director for them, managing a large part of the business, Europe, UK, Middle East, Russia, Africa. And then I've served also on with other acquirers in UK as their Chief Commercial Officer overlooking global businesses. I was part of a startup as well on anti-money laundering. So I've had my journey, very fulfilling journey, where I thought that I've seen a lot. But when I joined Ant, I must say this is a different world, 140,000 plus people company, run in a very nice fashion, process oriented, but in a very large business. So there's still a lot of learning what I understood after joining Ant, and I'm continuing my journey within payments.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sumit. Terrie.
Hello, everybody. I'm Terrie Smith. I'm the co-founder of DIGISEQ. It was founded in 2014. And the purpose of the company really is to connect wearable devices, objects of any type, shape, size, to different services, predominantly and initially payment. But as we go through this, hopefully I'll be able to talk to you a bit more about how other services can be loaded into the same device to give a fulfilled and comprehensive consumer experience. So we've just brought out the capability to provision payment over the air through the Android and your iOS phone directly into your wearable, which has created a completely new phase of the business and a game-changing capability. So we're looking forward to, really expanding the company and making it grow.
So I can buy a ring, say,
yes,
and I can provision any of my credit cards to that ring.
Absolutely, yeah. That's the whole concept is that you would just go to a store, you might go online, you might go to Tesco, take something off the shelf that's virgin, no security around it because there's nothing on it. And then you can take it home or you can do it in the high street, and 2 minutes later, you've downloaded your own credit or debit card directly into that wearable. And so you have the choice of the wearable, and then you have the choice of which card that you're putting in there.
And Terrie, you had a big announcement last week?
Yeah, that's the over-the-air provisioning through the iOS.
The partnership with
Yes, and the partnership with Curve initially, who trialed it for us in a trial and then commercially launched with us. So it just means that across Europe now, everybody can have a Curve card, associate it with any of their other cards, and literally buy a wearable and walk away wearing it and using it.
So I think that's very exciting. That cracks one of the key objections to wearables. I think so maybe that'll thing that will kick the category off as a real winner. But Sumit, you want to come in?
I wanted to add a little bit of humor. I'm thinking about this ring. How beautiful is it to propose your girlfriend to be whatever, putting your Mastercard, Visa card on that ring. giving your
I
financial...
give you my life as well.
Yes, exactly. This is amazing. Yeah.
Maybe that's a business opportunity in the audience there. Maybe a prepaid gift card on the
on the ring. Yeah, that's nice.
See, Davide's got some ideas as well, actually.
Yeah, no, I think that the wearables are really one of the most dynamic part of the business. So it's great also that you are doing new stuff. There are all new devices. It's really a space where we think that, of course, there will be always a device. There will be also device-less experiences, but we think that there will be always some fancy or some very advanced way to use a device for payments.
And so Paul, in your world, I know we were looking in the past at various wearable technologies. So is this something that the festival world's still looking at, or is it just everyone uses a card?
No. Well, at the moment, it's card-based because obviously we've evolved out of, a cash environment. And it took the whole of 21 to get back to normal, really. Everyone was concentrating on just understanding how events worked. Last year, having settled the sort of the cashless element, then now there is an opportunity to look at all these areas, and wearables could well become something that is an integral part of what we're doing.
Now, we've got another couple of questions for you, very, very popular. So, how do POS terminals work in fields?
Well, we've moved away from Glastonbury in 2012, which was a bit of Netgear. There are connectivity companies now which operate. I mean, clearly you're not going to get Wi-Fi throughout the whole of a massive site. It's just technically possible, but financially impossible. For me, I prefer to have a hard wire into the bar, work through a switch, and then we put the terminals out on bases which then are Bluetoothed or, direct connected to the base.
So it tends to be a Bluetooth to
Bluetooth. There are a lot of terminals work obviously on Wi-Fi, but for me, Wi-Fi isn't stable enough generally.
Yet.
I much prefer a hard wire into, say, a bar. And if you've got a 150-meter bar, we split it up into 3 or 4 areas. We've got flight cases with the terminals in, so it's one connection in, couple of switches, terminals out on the base, and then the terminals probably give us about 7 or 8 hours, up to 7 or 8 hours in battery life. So clearly we have to make sure we've got enough batteries around to swap those out. But that's the stable, and touch wood, that works.
And because we've got a lot of people here who are maybe in the terminal world, have you got any thoughts about any particular terminals that you like, that are particularly reliable? Or are you moving to Android?
Other terminals are available. We've tended to use the Ingenico Move 5000 up to now, but of course it's not Android. No. So the next phase for us clearly is moving on to Android, because we need to be able to recognize loyalty groups, different types of payment and so on. So that's kind of the next phase. So a lot of trials I think will be going on this year. And as I said in my piece there, the problem is that these festival owners only have 3 or 4 days to take their money. They don't do extensive trials. So we have to do some trials this year to look at something a bit rolling out next year. It's kind of that cycle.
Does soft POS come into it at all?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's move the discussion on slightly, because I've got a list of areas we've discussed in this conference in the last couple of days where there's clearly some issues with customer experience and making it seamless, which we might want to touch on with the panel. If there are any others, then please stick them up on the on the board here. So in no particular order, car commerce. So we had a big pitch from Mercedes-Benz about Mercedes Pay, that you would in your car you would buy value add services for your car by pushing a fingerprint on the car. They've done delegated authentication, so turn the car into a payment device. But it does strike me that cars are one area where life is not seamless. Paying for petrol is not seamless. Parking. You need a different app to park every single place you go. It's an absolute pain. So, have you got any stories, any advice for this audience about how we can make car commerce more seamless?
So first of all, I had recently a new car. And I have to say that the leasing company, gave me the car without explaining me anything. So for almost 2 weeks, I was just very able to drive, nothing else. So this was this. So then, really, yes, I think that in-car commerce is one of the new verticals for car payments and for payments overall. So it's a moment when you drive, you have time, or your family have also time to do payments. There are the typical ones, that is really fuel, but there will be electronic charging. But all these clearly passing from this new step that is the authentication. So all the new evolution of the authentication is giving the possibility really to recognize you. So fingerprint is a bit more secure than visual, but anyway, I think that when you have the possibility to have your own key, so then you are able to have a very seamless experience at the pump station. I know that car companies, oil companies are talking together. We are also part of these conversations. So it is really happening now. So it's
and I hope when they do the key, that they don't do a key that can be relayed like they do today. Because that to me, one of the key concerns I'd have is I don't trust the car today because of the car key can be, relayed. And I wouldn't want my life to be sitting in my car and trust them with the key.
Yeah. Wouldn't you just, the thing that slightly confused me about the process is, wouldn't I just want to get into my car, dock my iPhone, and then the car adapts to me rather than having to program the car about me?
Yeah. If I may, I think it's all about the data as well and getting the consumer more logged in towards you. If you use an external device, the data resides on that device itself. And the key, as they say in this new economy, data is the new gold. So, and I was very fortunate that when this whole project was conceived with Mercedes-Benz, I cannot share a lot, but I was part of, or I'd say I had initial insights of what the end game would be for this. It will move towards having more closer partnerships with merchants directly, making merchants available within your car dashboard. So if you want to go fuel up your tank, Shells, BPs, etc., all of this world are on the dashboard already. So while you're passing through the fuel station, you already get a notification your card is running low. So we advise you to go to the station and fill it up. And you already you basically fuel the car. You don't have to pay there. The payment is already done. So that's the end game, cutting friction. I think overall, if you see the presentation from Paul, David, and what Terrie has been talking about, or what I've been talking about, it's all about cutting friction and taking the ownership of the data. One-click payment of Mastercard, which David talked about, is also cutting friction. So I think it all moves into that direction of owning the data, cutting the friction.
That's fascinating. I'm got lots more questions for Paul, and I will come back to these. But I did see SCA flick up on the screen here because, again, it's clearly one of the causes of friction in the customer experience. So, people haven't been talking about it that much at this conference. So I suppose one question for the panel, do you think SCA is good enough and it kind of works and we can move on? Or in your world, is it still causing you a lot of hassle?
I think we are progressing in the right direction. So clearly it's, again, so I don't want to repeat what we were saying. So we think that there is a need of security and there is a need of convenience. So SCA started with the strong needs of security and then gradually embedding also a lot of convenience in this through evolution of the process. Wherever you are already authenticated, it's useless that you authenticate again. So, and the same for in-car commerce. So you enter, you are authenticated, so you are recognized. So if you lose your key, anyway, there are other ways to be authenticated. Okay, so that's, so I think having a basic level of security is fundamental to guarantee all the other use cases. So
and Terrie, I mean, clearly one question we always ask about wearables is How does it work with SCA?
Well, exactly. I mean, when we had to implement SCA as far as a wearable, what we looked at was actually doing and what we have implemented is like an out-of-bound SCA capability. So as the transactions clock up, depending on, sort of where you are and what the limits are in each location, our service warns you through the app, you're clocking up, you've got to this point. You need to re-authenticate yourself before you get declined at the next terminal, because there was nothing worse than going 5 times, you've spent your limit under the SCA rules, and then being told, sorry, you can't buy whatever it is, you've got to go back to square one or got to go and find your card. So we preempt it and make sure that the consumer has that smooth experience and is aware that these things are going to happen to them. So it was a bit of a killer when PSD2 SCA came out, but we managed it.
Find a way around it. And where are your first customers going to be?
Sorry?
Where are your customers going to be? Have you got any big deals you've signed? And
yeah, I mean, we have banks obviously joining. The whole point of our service is it's a big network. We're already predominant in the Nordics, so all of the Nordic banks are signed up to us. And that's one side of the equation. And then the other side of the equation is the brands of the manufacturers. And we've got some pretty cool brands just about to come on. Can't mention all of them, but they are coming on. And what it's doing is it's creating a network, and it's making it easier for the consumer and for the bank to just reach those trillions of devices that are out there.
Excellent. So let me move on to, I think, a good question here about click to pay, because that was a feature of Davide's presentation. I know Mastercard and the other schemes have been talking about click to pay for a little while now. How is that product going to compete with Google and Apple Pay, do you think?
First of all, our focus is to remove manual PAN entry in any use case. This is the point. So for us, Apple Pay, Google Pay clearly are device driven, is a device agnostic click to pay. So we don't have, we work with all these partners. So our intention is not to compete, is really to remove manual PAN entry. That's the first objective, and it will take time. So then we will think about it.
And have you got, will issuers be pre-enrolling all their cardholders into?
That's starting.
Yeah,
that's starting. We have already the first one. So, and we are moving with others. We have all of them. Clearly takes a bit, but also.
Has anyone in the audience been pre-enrolled yet for Click to Pay?
Very few.
Has anyone in the audience used Click to Pay yet?
No, it's
okay.
It's
too early. Right.
Will be so almost. We have one issuer in Czech Republic that is push provisioning, and some others outside of Europe, so not in my remit. So, but yes, this is the direction. So without this, of course, the user experience will be less seamless.
So let's go back to Paul, because we've got a couple of questions about the festival world. So I mean, I suppose the first one obviously is: do you think your world's going to move to Terrie's bracelets? And the second question is Ticketmaster just going to take the entire market? Because when you buy the ticket and they add their big fees, they will also add the bracelet, take all the payments and all the revenue.
Well, clearly, again, the Ticketmaster aren't the only ticket company that are in the market. I think in UK alone, there's something like 250 different ticket providers. Ticketmaster have the lion's share, but and that tends to be in the big events. When you get down to the independent sector, which is actually where my focus is going to be on from now, it's a kind of completely open field. Excuse the pun. Literally, the independent owners will probably not go to a Ticketmaster or even a C-Tickets, who are kind of the next in line. C-Tickets to Glastonbury. Ticketmaster have literally launched recently activation side. They're putting the ticket into, they're using the ticket for other things. They already automated access control and so forth. But I believe that the independent sector will be very likely to be rather a fertile ground for new technology. It doesn't actually revolve around purely ticket. The ticket's an instrument to get into a venue, and it's always been a mystery to me why, if you run a festival, why you just subcontract your ticket purchase to a contractor, because actually that's you giving away your relationship with the person who's buying the ticket, which is fundamental. So I think obviously Ticketmaster are going to be a major player because they are already, but I think there's going to be a whole host of other opportunities out there.
But I think to your question of, sort of working with the wearable, what we can do with the wearable is put multiple functions on it. Unlike a card, like when you go into an event, you've got your card and you've got to have your ticket and you've got to have this. So we're sort of bringing everything together in one device, and it's controlled by the consumer. So it's no longer controlled by the owner of the service. It's you who decides what you put onto it. And that fundamentally changes the way that you behave when you buy a festival ticket, because you'll put your own access onto your own ticket, which is your own wearable. So it's twisting, it's changing the table.
Okay, that's interesting. So let me move on to another area which was quite popular earlier on in the conference, which is that of the metaverse. So a lot of conversation about, well, actually, how do you make a payment when you haven't got access to a card or your any logins because you're in some kind of virtual world. And clearly, tokenization is going to be terribly important with that. And so Davide mentioned this target of 100% tokenized cards. Any idea how long?
We hope we have already started declaring this to the market. Yeah. So with some indication of the time when we would like to really make this becoming reality. Of course, again, there are different use cases. Some, like tokenization, card on file, is a reality already. So we see that trajectory is very, very, very quick. Of course, with guest checkout, there is much more to happen.
Do you have an internal target for getting to 100%?
We have some internal target.
Okay, right. But you can't share that with us. Okay.
Otherwise, it's no longer internal.
So, Sumit, question from the audience that they want to know about Ant Group's strategy for tokenization.
So, on public forums, we don't talk about our strategies about Ant Group. However, I can talk about tokenization in general, where I see as a payment expert where the market is moving. So one of the things which Mastercard Visa launched is scheme tokenization. I think that's something really powerful. As we know, so far, wherever the power resides with the company which owns the tokens. So far in the market, majority of the PSPs used to tokenize the cards for the merchants, and the power would remain with the PSPs. But now the schemes launching the tokens themselves, they're going to shift the power back to the merchant. I think that's something very, very powerful, where the dependence of the merchants would be less on the PSPs, and they will have an open choice to work with the companies they would prefer to work with, rather than being taken hostage because of the tokens being kept at the PSP. So that's one very good move by Visa Mastercard. Ant Group, very, very high level, something which is in the public domain. We have Alipay. Again, it's a wallet where you authenticate yourself with the wallet, and then the tokenization is basically through that authentication, like PayPal. What we are doing additionally to make it better is that we have launched Alipay Plus as a service, which actually takes Alipay access to other wallets in Asia as well. We have now over 10 wallets already, and we are going to expand the service further, where again, through one single interface of Alipay, customers can reach out to other wallets in other jurisdictions as well. And that's something very, very powerful.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sumit. So we're coming towards the end of the session, and the panelists don't know what the questions are that are coming. I wonder whether you could give us an example from the last 2 or 3 days of this conference of something that has surprised or delighted or astonished you. Who'd like to go first?
Yeah, sure. I can. There are two things. I'll try to make it short, looking at the time as well. One was the panel on metaverse, where the panelists talked about how the metaverse will evolve and I think it has a lot of cross linkages what we talked on this panel as well, which comes to digitalization payment. What I understood from that panel is that today majority of while you experience the metaverse, but if you have to make the payment, you actually have to come out of the metaverse and make the payment, and the next step will be to actually see whether how you digitalize the payment within the metaverse itself, where you can not only pay but actually own that digital product in reality, within that metaverse space. So that was one. The second thing was also I heard about a service where cards, when they have low funds, they could be actually still processed by talking to the issuers if they are willing to take higher fee to take a risk associated with a non-payment. Let's say I have a card of a 5,000 euro limit, and I now have a new payment coming in of $50 or 50 euros. My 5,000 limit has expired or completely been expensed. But if a 50 euro additional payment comes in, it will actually get declined. But typically, if the issuer is willing to make the exception or take a higher fee for processing that payment can go through. That is something which I learned was very interesting for me. Because for me, if the card is expenses limit, the payment is gone. Basically, you can't do it. But that was new for me.
Thanks, Sumit. Who's next?
Well, I think that it was just the previous session to this. It was quite interesting to see the audience when Laura asked them, do you think there'd be super apps coming out in Europe? And a lot of people were like negative about it, quite negative. I'm quite surprised because I can already see, for example, Mercedes is likely to be its own super app when it gets going.
Do you think super apps are coming to Europe?
Sorry?
You think super apps are coming to Europe?
I do, yeah.
Well, maybe I guess Sumit's got a super app, haven't you? You could bring it to Europe.
Yeah.
So, other end of the sofa, what surprised and delighted or astonished you?
For me, the metaverse session was very interesting because in my world, I think affinity groups, fan clubs. I come back from that sort of original fan club world. I went back a long way, as you might tell from my age, but affinity groups are ideal for the metaverse because you can actually organize special events within that where the artist you can have talks, you can have interaction with sportsmen, and you can, as you just alluded to, pay for additional things within that area. Yeah. So longer term, I think it has massive relevance in my world.
Thanks, Paul and Davide. Surprised, delighted, astonished.
Yes. No, I think that something that I liked a lot, I was delighted to see is related to the cashless experience. So there were a couple of presenters very great on stage explain this new world where you check in. That is clearly where also we are working for the future. It is concrete. It is already happening. Will happen. So it's a space where there will be a lot of things that can change. I don't know, the world of barcodes, so there are a lot of other part of the ecosystem that can really change also the experience, the way the shops are built, the design of the shops. So I think that this is something really at the beginning, but happening through some innovators, but will then change. I think all the large retailers have started thinking about it.
Thank you. And I'm going to add one before we close, which is this company called Pixels that was one of the startup finalists who've got this, you tap your phone on a payment terminal and it gives you a digital receipt without needing to have an app or give the merchant your email or your phone number. It's genius.
Friction.
Absolutely frictionless. Tap your phone and get a receipt. Nothing else to do. I think it's wonderful. Brilliant. So thanks everybody for sticking out the second last session. This conference is not yet over, so please don't go far. We'll be back in 15 minutes. But thanks for the time and thanks to the panelists. Appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the official MPE podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the show and check other video interviews with other industry leaders on our YouTube channel. For more content, follow Merchant Payments Ecosystem on LinkedIn and Twitter. Don't miss out on our Positivity magazine, and remember to subscribe to the MPE newsletter at www.merchantpaymentsecosystem.com.